So, hey, this is working. Okay. Um, this is going to be a different video. Okay. I wanted to talk today about artificial intelligence and the incredible potential that will be available to us in astrology, in the astrological field of study and research, thanks to artificial intelligence. So basically, this video came out of a reflection. I was just considering how reception and all the weird facets of reception are arranged in astrology, how reception works, and also all kinds of astrological things, or all kinds of astrological dynamics which are contested, which are not really understood that well, and how today basically there are different camps, and you basically choose to decide. You choose to stay in one camp instead of another, and everybody's got their own opinions. There are more or less famous and I guess powerful, so to speak, influences in astrology, powerful people that influence astrology, and the big names, and they got different opinions, they got different experiences, and the problem is always the same. The problem is the same that the same problem for which the scientific method has been invented, and that is reproducibility of results. And since we're dealing with the divine and the gods, the gods and correspondences, chains of correspondences, we cannot really reproduce results with absolute precision, but however we can have events which based on the situation, based on whatever is happening at that moment, kind of all point the finger toward that archetype, that god, that idea. So an example would be the study of Venus, and the usual astrological those that critique astrology for its validity would say that you cannot demonstrate that Venus is the goddess of love, because the astrological events associated to Venus are not reproducible in a consistent way, but they actually are. So if you were to study and predict astrology, and you wouldn't go by precise events, but you would go by quality, typology of events, typology, well, whatever, quality of events. Like Venusian events are related to love, friendship, pleasure, serenity, happiness, sex, beauty, harmony, union, stuff like this. They're not general. They're not that much general. They are very specific. I like to say that astrological archetypes are very specific in their generality and very general in their specificity, and it is true. So basically, imagine trying to predict a precise event, not like the number of times that you have sex, even though that can be for sure something that you could measure, during Venusian influences. But what if you measured all Venusian events and then you put that against what is exactly happening, astrologically for you at that moment or for the world? It would be very difficult. And that's why I say that probably astrological stuff will benefit immensely from artificial intelligence, and that we are at a point in history where basically we are just waiting for the right people to construct those research, those artificial intelligence, astrological research software models that will be capable of, understanding what kinds of events, or at least not understanding, but how artificial intelligence works. Kind of like creating a model in general of what is intended by Venusian, for example, or Jupiterian or solar, etc. And they will be able, indeed, to conduct research at an incredible speed. And seeing the events, the correspondences, and whatever else is associated to those planetary intelligences at that moment in time and in space, and in the life of the person, and in the life of whatever, the collectivity, etc. So just think about somebody that is able to program an artificial intelligence to conduct research on such topics. The potential is incredible. We have, opinion camps, powerful figures, authority figures, like the big names in astrology, which say, no, you can't do this. No, this is not good. Yes, I tried this, but it doesn't work. And when you get down to the specific, when you analyze, when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of their experience, you basically come to understand that their experience has been like very limited. And it's something that, also me, I myself, I have to admit, I also have very limited experience. And usually you don't have that much time to conduct, large scale experiments on astrological influences and stuff like that. And if you ask those people, why do you say this? This is a perfectly, working astrological principle. Why do you say this? And they answer you that they had just one experience where it didn't work. You're like, wait a second, just one experience? I mean, you need at least 100 different experiences where you consistently don't see anything coming out of that astrological influence or whatever. Now, there was a debate on stellar sorcery about instead of using the domicile ruler of the ascendant to make an aspect to the target petitioned planet, having L1 to aspect the planet that you want to petition. Marianna, a friend of mine, told me, well, the Picatrix also considers other types of rulership. And so why not use the exaltation ruler of the first house as L1? It's not the domicile ruler, but it's still a ruler. It's still an exaltation ruler. Or even another condition that you could use in electional astrology, the moon is co-significator of how things will go and co-significator of the actual querent. So both the ascendant, the ruler of the ascendant, and the moon can be taken to represent you. So why not make a petition when the moon is applying to the petitioned planet? Maybe L1 will do something else. Maybe the exaltation ruler of the first house will do something else. But what if the moon is applying to an aspect to, let's say, Saturn, if you want to make a petition to Saturn? Or the sun? What if the moon makes a trine to the sun and then you use that moment to make a petition to the sun? Why not? Just because in the Picatrix, in the section of about petitions, such a way of doing petitions isn't mentioned. Well, but the Picatrix also says to know your astrology. So, these principles work. Exaltation rulers exist. Triplicity rulers exist, even though in the tradition, I don't remember which Arabic astrologer said this, but the general consensus traditionally is that at least um, two minor dignities between triplicity, term, and decan have to be present at that place where the planet is to talk about reception. So, I mean, why not? Why not use those things? Even if in the petitions section of the Picatrix such rules are not mentioned. Nevertheless, the principles are there. The backbone of a petition is that which represents you must contact that which is the target planet. So if your target is Jupiter, if you want to make a petition to Jupiter, you, or that which represents you, has to have an aspect to Jupiter. And so what if we use the moon? Since the moon represents you in electional astrology, what if we use the exaltation ruler if the domicile ruler of the ascendant does not contact Jupiter in this case? Why don't we use the target planet rising on the ascendant? Because the target planet at that moment is conjuncting, so to speak, the ascendant. Why don't we use that to make a petition, for example? And so on and so forth. And of course, there are also the problems about essential dignity and the power to act of the planet, but this is another topic for another time. But if the planet is at least, at the very least, a little bit essentially dignified, then why not test all these other strategies? Another interesting thing was to use those strategies, for example, to make a talisman without the planetary day or hour of the talisman. And I did this, I tested this, and it gave effects. It gave good effects. I made a Venus talisman when Venus was rising in her domicile of Libra, and the moon was trining as her next aspect, Venus. And the talisman worked. It wasn't Friday, it wasn't Venus hour. Why? Because both the moon and the angles decide what is active at that moment. So if you have a chart where you have the rising sign of a planet, the domicile rising sign of a planet which is rising, it means that it's active. And you have that planet rising, which means that it's active. And you have the moon aspecting the planet as her next aspect, which means it's happening right now. That interaction is happening right now. Basically, you got all the prerequisites to make a talisman with the energies of that moment, because at that moment, everything points the finger to the fact that that planet is acting, and it's strong because it is in its domicile. Its domicile is rising. The planet itself is rising and conjunct to the ascendant. The moon is contacting the planet, so the moon is activating the planet. Everything is there. You just lack the planetary day or hour. But if everything else is there, we know that it works. At least not in talismanic astrology, but in every other kinds of astrology, that's when a planet is active and stuff happens in the world regarding that planet. I mean, the whole signification of horoscope is basically scope of the hour or not. Basically, the whole point of the chart is the ascendant. The whole thing around which the chart is constructed is the ascendant. The ascendant is the moment. The ascendant is basically what is active at that moment. It is the basis, it is a foundation around which every single chart in every branch of astrology is built around. The ascendant is you, the ascendant is the thing that you're doing at that moment. And the moon is another one of those things that, tell you what exactly is happening at that moment. So if you got both, why not make a talisman? And I did. And my girlfriend did too. And they worked, and they keep on working. So, but this is just one experience. What happens if we create an artificial intelligence which is programmed to take a look at all those things and, create an output with everything that, I don't know, you could program it to just spew out all the correspondences that it finds for one condition. Like, I don't know, tell me what happens to people, tell me all the correspondences which are similar with all the people that have Venus on the ascendant, for example, or Venus in domicile, exaltation, or triplicity on the ascendant. And then the artificial intelligence could search into a bank or, database of, millions different charts and tell you, well, all the charts that had Venus on the ascendant dignified showed all these different similarities, like 100% always this, and this, 80% of the times this, and this, 70% of the times this is this and this, 50% of the times this. And then maybe you could click those different, I don't know, the 50% bar, like, I don't know, becoming a singer. 50% of those people became a singer, for example. And you could see what exactly, who those people were, what were all the other conditions, like maybe Venus was in Taurus and not in Libra, or maybe Venus was more in Libra than Taurus, or maybe Venus was making an aspect to Mercury, which is associated to communication, and all this stuff like that. So the possibilities are incredible. If you just think that you could think about a software which is capable of giving you all of this and even more. They're all the most brilliant minds present also in the scientific world, because I think the scientific world, after we create such software, such research tools, they will be interested in astrology. I think astrology will be again considered into the world of mainstream science if we manage to create such things and see these correspondences. I mean, at least correlation is not causation will not be taken as an excuse to not look into those incredible correlations, which, by the way, have been talked about for thousands of years in different cultures all around the world. And I'm aware there's already people that are conducting research, scientific research in astrological things, but it's nowhere near as incredible and in your face as artificial intelligence tools will be able to be in the future. So we really are at a crossroads. We are like on the confine of a new era. I can feel this in the future. We are like at the confine. We're just entering this new era. And it's incredibly exciting if you just stop for a moment and think about the possibilities that artificial intelligence applied to astrological research will be able to give us. How many debates will be shut down, and how many doubts, how many holes in our knowledge, in our astrological knowledge, will be able to be finally solved by such tools. Imagine you're having a debate on, the validity, yeah, why not? The validity of an exaltation ruler as compared to a domicile ruler. For horary astrology, for example. Why not considering both? And I kind of turn up my nose if I think about it, because what if, you got Scorpio rising, no, Libra rising, and you got Venus in Scorpio, so the domicile ruler of the ascendant is in detriment, but you got Saturn in Capricorn, and so Saturn is in domicile, so the exaltation ruler of the ascendant is actually pretty freaking dignified. And just imagine you're an astrologer and you have some clients coming to you, so you get like 1, 2, 3, 4 cases every week or so of people asking you a question, and then you can give them an answer and you can receive the actual feedback on the answer. And you consider both the domicile ruler of the ascendant and the exaltation ruler of the ascendant. You will proceed at an immensely slow speed, because you need to have a big enough sample to get enough evidence that the exaltation ruler of the first house is viable or not. But now imagine you have an AI tool that enables you to parse through. You don't even need to do it. It does it for you. It parses an incredibly big database of horary questions, and then it compares what happened in those questions and what happened in the world. So it has feedback. It compares all those feedbacks with, the validity of the domicile ruler for the first house and the exaltation ruler for the first house. And you have a sample of millions of questions, maybe by all the world's astrologers, and they all contribute to this database, plus all the astrologers that are part of the tradition. And so all the horary textbooks and all the horary case books, by all the traditional astrologers, and all the horary cases by all the astrologers, contemporary astrologers in the world working today. And this database contains it all, and it's continually updated. Imagine an AI tool that parses through that and tells you this is the percentage of times that the domicile ruler was valid and described the actual feedback of the situation, and this is the percentage of validity with which the exaltation ruler described the situation and was right or not. You could just, there wouldn't be a debate. You could just pick up the data and see, here's the evidence. The domicile ruler is like true and valid, like 95% of the times, in a sample of 2,500,000 horary questions, and the exaltation ruler is valid only 50% of the time, for example. So 50%, basically that's, I don't know, that's basically one time yes and one time no. It's not reliable enough. So we could say that we could rule out the exaltation ruler as a ruler of a sign. Whereas if the percentage was higher, we could say, interesting. Let's dive even more into these results and all these charts, and let's see what are all the variables in these charts, if there is something interesting that maybe pops out, um, that gave those results. Maybe there's a condition that enables the ruler of the first house to be the exaltation ruler and not the domicile ruler. We could ask the artificial intelligence tool to look for such a condition by seeing exactly what is going on with all of these charts, comparing all the similarities between them, and maybe if the domicile ruler, I don't know, is in the 12th house, the artificial intelligence tells us every time that the domicile ruler is in the 12th house, the exaltation ruler gives a positive result and describes perfectly the situation, the feedback of that horary question. Then we would know a new rule in astrology. And who cares about tradition? It's just too much of a specific thing which wasn't ever thought about by astrologers in the past or revealed through spirits because it was too complicated to be communicated through spirit. But thanks to artificial intelligence, we would know a new rule. That is, when the domicile ruler of the ascendant is in the 12th house, the exaltation ruler takes over, for example. So that would be a new rule that works. That is actually something which happens in reality. And we could say to the artificial intelligence, well, okay, take a look at all those millions of horary questions and see what happened every time that the domicile ruler of the first house of the ascendant was in the 12th house. Take a look at the exaltation ruler of that rising sign. And what are the commonalities? And maybe we could have even more information about that. So, I mean, it's incredible. This is just an example, but it's incredible how this could revolutionize completely the field of traditional astrology and modern astrology too. What if we applied these same tools to what modern astrologers say about the rulership of Aquarius, Pisces, and Scorpio, with the three outers, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto? Can we take a look at all these different horary questions and see, for example, what are the similarities and the interactions between Aquarius and Saturn and Uranus and see what is going on? Yes, we can. We will be able to do that with an artificial intelligence tool. And finally, we will be able to say, yes, it's bullshit. Uranus does not rule Aquarius, Saturn does. Or we will be able to see and say that, yes, maybe there are there are conditions where Uranus actually rules Aquarius. And these conditions are this, this, and this. And this is the most probable one. This maybe, this is less probable, for example. And we will be able to conduct research on all these choices, all these different conditions, and basically expand our knowledge and maybe integrate what has been observed by moderns and what has always been observed by traditional people, you know, in the tradition. And we will be able to do the same with asteroids, with new planets, and just, you know, have a tool to understand what is bullshit and what is not, and even find completely new rules. It's a revolution. It's like utilizing Newton's physics for, you know, the physical plane where we are, like on planet Earth, and then, you know, expanding even more and having to, you know, discovering Einstein's equations. Like, do you know that the GPS satellites have to account for the distortion in space-time because of the distances at which they are to provide accurate signals. It's incredible. You know, this is reality. This is what actually happens. But if we are here on Earth, we do not require that. However, that is part of reality, and at a larger scale, just as what happens in the infinitely small scale with quantum mechanics, we have to use those rules because that is how reality works at that level. And we are able to see new rules which do not invalidate what we have already observed. They account for what we have already observed, and they expand our knowledge of reality. Sorry. So, I mean, just imagine a new astrology which is backed by science, enhanced by artificial intelligence, which finally solves what is bullshit and what is not, which integrates new knowledge of the modern planets like the outers, and could maybe even generate a new system based on all the planets in the solar system that could take a look at the different zodiacs. What is the right zodiac? What if tropical and sidereal are both valid but for different things? For which things? You could ask that to an artificial intelligence tool, and after a while, by going from the general to the specific, you could pinpoint exactly what is the essence behind all those things. And so it will be a very mercurial tool which will be able to give, you know, very Jupiterian results in a way. A synthesis between detail and big picture, you know, between tree and forest, between detail and, yeah, actual big picture. And it's incredibly exciting. Just think about the possibilities. So, yeah, that's it for today. We are already at 32 minutes. So, this has been Eduardo coming at you from the Ivory Tower. This has been a different video. I guess this will go into the generic spirituality playlist, I guess. But yeah, no more debates, no more modern astrology is bullshit, no more traditional astrologers have, like, you know, something up their butt and they do not accept anything else. No more astrology is not scientific, no more we don't know, no more I've heard that my friend did this and, you know, their head exploded, just like Warnock loves to say. And, you know, no more I did this but I don't know, but I have to conduct more research. No more personal biases, no more cognitive biases like, you know, cherry picking or confirmation bias. You know, artificial intelligence could also be used in a big enough sample to deal with these biases, even when they're unconscious, and really help us understand what really works and what doesn't, what really is reality and what really isn't, and it's just a delusion. And what are all those conditions at which, you know, something is valid and all the other conditions when it is not valid. But that would still be a rule. So yeah, it's incredibly exciting. Sorry, I'm rambling. So again, this has been Eduardo from the Ivory Tower. Very exciting possibilities in the future. If you want to buy a talisman or a consultation from me, we have links in the description box below. And I've got basically almost all planetary, I've got all planetary talismans in stock at the moment. Most of the fixed stars, something else, inquire through direct message. At the moment, sadly, Facebook decided that if you're not American, if you don't have an American business number, like if you don't follow American bureaucracy, if you don't conduct business in America, you cannot have a shop on Facebook. So I think as soon as Mercury retrograde will be over, I will open up maybe a website, most probably an Instagram account where I will post all my talismans. Until then, I have talismans for sale. Just contact me directly to know more. And yeah, I'll see you the next time.